Hey everybody!
Hey Pony, what's up, JTH?
And Tails the Hero.
And we are reading the last chapter, Chapter 8 of Princess Lunaughty. And look who's here with us again. The great and powerful Trixie!
She's always here with us.
And she's in this story too.
Yep.
Don't forget that. Now here we go with the last part. Part 8. When we last left off, Celestia and Luna started kissing again.
Making out and shit. Like, what the hell?
Yeah. Sorry, we just ate. The kiss lasted for several long moments, a slight amount of tongue-touching taking place with the exchange.
Still confused.
The Regal sisters then pulled back, looking at each other with a large blush. Luna looked at Celestia, her eyes wide with an expectant look as she seemed to wait with bated breath. Celestia's eyes looked up for a moment, but then returned to meet her sisters as a smile spread to her face. "Can you feel it?" Luna asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I can," Celestia said, giving a soft nod. "It feels like a hint of true harmony." "Don't be afraid to let it out, sister." Luna's voice suddenly got more serious. "Just take it slow. You have the elements holding it back now, not some sort of spell. The elements of harmony left it slightly connected to you, waiting for you to fulfill those needs while still allowing you control." "I understand." Celestia nodded again. "Princess Luna?" came a voice from the other side. Looking both over, Celestia and Luna looked at Fairy Punch, who continued. What just happened?" Celestia smiled softly as Luna let out a soft chuckle. They looked at each other again, Celestia nodding at Luna this time, Luna giving a bit of a wing shrug as Celestia turned around. Both sisters facing Fairy Punch and ultimately every pony else in the room.
Oh god.
Oh god. Oh crap, here we go.
I knew it.
Well, I don't know, but I just have a feeling this is going to be a repeat.
Most likely.
"You all know what happened 2 days ago," Luna began, looking over every pony slowly. "Now we have figured out how to stop it. For good this time." She took a few steps forward as she cleared her throat. "Several hundred years ago, my sister had part of herself sealed within the depths of her mind, as most of you already know. She sealed away her lustful side in order to continue ruling over this beautiful land, with less to no deal, with less the reason to worry or to ache. As it were, the other side of her had ended up forcing its way out only a few times, when it was sealed back each outburst. Every time her mind was sealed, it was done using so conventional magic, except for 2 days ago." "The elements of harmony," Twilight spoke up. "Yes, Twilight, the elements, one of the most ancient magical powers in Equestria, know what true harmony is." Over hundreds of years, Celestia's mind was at peace, never reaching major conflict. Her mind as a whole was never in harmony. She had a part of her mind, a part of her being locked away artificially, which would ultimately never prove to be a substitute to harmony. The suppressed feelings, the desires and passion which she kept suppressed would eventually explode in those few short outbursts, making her seem like a monster. No pony ever stopped to wonder what would happen if they were to let her continue her rampage. Though it was to be assumed to be bad, it was actually her mind trying to restore balance.
Huh.
"And I was unable to figure out this until just tonight, with Luna's help," Celestia spoke up.
God.
"When she was locked in the room, her mind was free to roam, free to explore and to think about what she wanted, what she desired, and the passion she wished to seek. The difference between her and I is that I had the option to fulfill my desires. She did not, being stuck on the moon. However, when she came back and the elements of harmony were used again, her mind was left pure, completely in harmony, and not tarnished by what she experienced on the moon. But 2 days ago, when my suppressed side was released and I assaulted her, that triggered her memories from when she stayed on the moon to return. That was when she needed answers. She needed to know why she was feeling the way she was. Now it was connected to how I acted, but most importantly, how she could find a way to control it. For both of us."
I'm so confused.
"And we have found the answer, finally," Luna spoke up again, a smile on her face as she continued the explanation. "Harmony is simply another word for balance, and our minds were not at balance at all. Balance in a lot of ways is about giving and taking, We gave all we could, but we never took what we needed to. We never brought ourselves to indulge and give rest to the parts of our minds that needed tending to. The Celestia side is not a monster. Just a part of Celestia, crying and begging for attention, being pushed to the point where it needs to fully obtain it somehow. We know now that if she was to indeed left Rome and continued her rampage, that she would eventually come to a stop and slowly but surely regain harmony. True harmony within herself. That is why the elements of harmony did not seal it away like we thought it would. It kept their two minds connected, letting my sister capture the hints and whispers it did transfer. The elements knew what to do, and just like with what happened when we were freed from Nightmare Moon, Celestia's mind was left refreshed, her other side in no way altered, only giving her relief as her mind was put to rest. There hasn't been a seal from when it first broke 2 days ago. Celestia simply hasn't had the desire to fully indulge yet. That would explain it, Twilight said out as she took a step forward. Earlier, when we found Shirley, she threw herself at Celestia and kissed her. Instead of being horrified, Celestia just seemed to blush at it. Shirley kissed Celestia? Rainbow Dash asked in disbelief. Yeah, it was really awkward. I don't know why she would have done that, though.
She needs.
I do, Barry Punch spoke up, waving a hoof. It's really simple. Shirley's my sister, and I know my sister. So take my word for it. She's just a sexually repressed school teacher. So if you get her in a really compromising situation, she tends to go a little nuts for a while.
Neither me.
Barry Punch blushed slightly with a vibrant smile, while a few ponies in the room proceeded to face Hoof.
Doink.
Well, that would explain also why Celestia kissed Ditzy-Doo, Applejack spoke up. Celestia kissed Derpy? Rainbow Dash looked over, her eyebrow cocked. Yeah, Celestia did that to taste for her sister. But even with enough evidence to put it all on Luna, Applejack looked at Celestia, who simply nodded in reply. So you did just do it to enjoy the feel, didn't ya? That's correct, Celestia replied, excluding a few gasps from the group. And that kiss just now with Princess Luna? Fluttershy managed to peep up.
Dear Lord.
Well, Luna smiled, shrugging her wings a bit. There's a reason she went after me first when her Celestia side was released a few days ago. There was a reason?
Oh, God.
There were several jaw drops, several cringes, and one particular white unicorn performing a glorious feint. This time for a good reason. Rarity. Okay. Rainbow Dash spoke up, rubbing her head with one of her hooves. So because of the elements, both of your minds were cleared like a clean slate. Now you both are steadily getting the urges to go around and start molesting ponies as you wanted to all along. Is that correct?
What?
More or less, Luna shrugged. There's a bit more to it than that, but that's essentially what it boils down to. There was an awkward silence in the room. Just then every pony stunned at the princess's answer. Moreover, they all had a gut feeling what was most likely to happen next. Mistress Luna? Barry Punch spoke up, earning a glare from every pony in the room that she didn't notice. What happens now? Luna looked down at Barry, then at her sister, and then finally rested her eyes on two specific ponies, Colgate and Carrot Top. Celestia, would you be willing to show Barry Punch a good time? After all, she is a large part of what happened tonight.
Oh, God.
What with leading every pony into this apparently elaborate trap I set, the slight sarcasm drew out a chuckle from Celestia. That doesn't sound like a bad idea, Celestia smirked as she looked over to Barry Punch, seeing her eyes widen in disbelief. My faithful subject, would you like to receive your reward for helping my sister and I? If Barry Punch were to faint right then, which thankfully for her sake she didn't, it would have been the only time she didn't pass out with alcohol not being involved.
Oh, dear Lord.
She was without words as she stared up at Celestia, unable to breathe for a few moments. Finally, her mane came back into motion from an apparent blowout and squealed like a fangirl at the offer.
Oh, my God. She's Celestia again.
Oh my god. No, I think she's just her regular self, but she's like
Scroll down,
controlling
scroll
it like Luna
Scroll
does.
down! Read!
Don't make me bash your face in. Calm
I
down.
have to leave soon, you know that, right?
No. It's only 7:45.
No, I'm just saying. Don't get angry at me. I just want to hear what's going on.
Can I really?
Oh god.
Barry Punch asked with a grin that reviled one pinky would give. Only if you think you can handle the heat of the sun.
Oh my
Celestia
God.
spit her tongue out at Barry as she wagged her flank at her. In an instant, Barry Punch had closed the distance between her and Celestia, her back hoofs planted on the ground as she held herself up, planting a hard kiss on the princess's lips. Celestia immediately kissed back, resting her head back against Barry's as she scooted closer. Their tongues met in between their lips, intertwining and rolling around as Jesus. As their kiss intensified, Barry let out a soft moan, falling back to a sitting position as Celestia pressed herself forward, her head leaning down against the smaller mirror. Before long, Barry had been pushed onto her back, her legs spread open by Celestia's front legs. Celestia's wings were fully erect. Ring boner! Her horn glowing ever so lightly and her hair waving around energetically. What you...
I don't know. Continue, I'm listening.
The kiss continued for a few seconds longer before Celestia broke it off. Instead of sliding her muscle down to the pony's neck and kissing and licking there, she sniffed softly in Barry's mane a few times, enjoying the fruit-scented aroma she seemed to be giving off.
I just met you and this is crazy, but here's my number.
So call me... Who is this? You have the wrong number!
Oh my god, continue reading.
Celestia eventually drew her muzzle lower, kissing and licking down her chest, stomach, and lower abdomen before she used her hair to tangle around Barry's lower legs and pull them apart. Barry Punch moaned loudly. Celestia's tongue slither and slide between her haunches. While her lower legs were restrained, she bit her lip, looking down at Celestia's head as she serviced her. The mare reached down and put her front hooves, grabbing onto the goddess's horn and rubbing it aggressively,
Oh my god.
exciting a few short, pleasant squeals from Celestia. As for you two, Luna grinned as she looked over Cloaking and Carrot Top, who had been frozen in place from sheer shock as they watched their close friend and an immortal goddess begin getting it on. Okay. You can't be serious, Carrot Top asked as her and Colgate began to... Carrot Top asked as she and Colgate began to step forward. Oh, I'm very serious. However, she glanced to the side, seeing the main sticks still standing there as if they were ready to bolt out of the windmill. She stared at Twilight closely for a few seconds. It was then that an idea, nay, a grand scheme popped into her head, one that may end up changing the fate of Equestria forever. Her eyes widened at the sudden realization. It seemed so fitting for Celestia's pupil, and almost appeared to be destined by fate. No wonder Celestia wanted to feel Twilight sparkle more than any pony else.
Oh my lord.
I don't think you two will be alone in this, Luna announced as her horn flared up, grabbing a hold of Twilight. Oh no, 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 not again, please, not again! Lavender Unicorn cried out in terror as she felt Luna's hold on her, pulling her into the air and towards the group. Twilight! All of her friends called out in unison. All our friends crying out in unison. Come on, y'all, we gotta help her, Applejack spoke up as the group readied themselves to charge. They were just about to dash to the rescue when, before they had the chance, another magical force caught them by surprise. Their bodies held still, their eyes widening as they were slowly floating into the air and then poofed away. Luna looked at the display, wondering why they were all just teleported out of the room, but shrugged it off anyways, not caring as much as she had obtained her first target.
God.
Now you sit here and be a good teacher's pet, Twilight, Luna giggled in a bit as she placed Twilight in a sitting position, binding her in place with magical glowing chains that Luna personally created. Twilight watched on in horror, her brief cries doing nothing, and saw neither of the princesses listening to her. All the guards in the windmill had decided to flee the scene, not wanting to become victims themselves.
Great royal guards, assholes. Oh my god, she's molesting people. Let's get out of here. Oh, we're supposed to protect them. Fuck them.
Twilight just sat there, held in place against her will and forced to watch the scene unfold before her. Luna's horn flared up with magic once again, taking hold of Colgate and Carrot Top, dragging them both towards her. The two were immediately pushed to their backs, spread out by the magic script with their bodies pointed in opposite directions. Their back legs were pressed against each other's, with Carrot Top being one closest to Luna, while Colgate was the furthest. Luna approached swiftly, bringing herself down over the two, with her head above Colgate's stomach and her lump just hanging over the top of Carrot Top's mane.
Super Bomb's just texted me.
After taking a moment to lick her lips and savor her victory, Luna allowed her body to descend, taking a big lick between Colgate's thighs and Carrot Top's head, as Carrot Top's head was pushed between her own thighs. What did Super Bomb say to you?
I'd rather not say it while we're on camera.
Colgate moaned out loudly, biting her lower lip afterwards. She didn't want to feel this good. She wanted to get out of here and away from the princess. Her magical binds held her for a few more seconds before Luna's hair came apart, wrapping parts of itself around her limbs and restraining her as the magic faded away.
I don't understand the hair. I really don't.
Luna then began to use more aggressive tactics, pressing her whips wildly against Colgate, and her tongue continued to lather and wipe vigorously. It wasn't long before the blue unicorn was sweating, her breathing increased, and her limbs twitching sporadically. Her lower body was on fire, the warm, moist tongue sending tingles through her body. Luna's lips also contributed, stroking and kissing as much as they could against her, while Luna's head seemed to shift up and down gradually. The shifting was caused by Luna's lower body, which pressing down against Carrot Top. Oh, Carrot Top. Part of Luna's tail had flung itself down, a couple of strands pushing into Carrot Top's mouth and holding it open as she was pushed up between Luna's thighs. Carrot Top struggled, but felt part of Luna's tail gripping her around her limbs. The magic faded away as the restraints took hold. Just like with Colgate, Luna's hips began to thrust downwards slowly, her movements smooth and steady. She could feel Carrot Top's tongue and lips against her through the sensation. It was not as powerful as it could be. She still felt pleasurable shivers run up her spine from the touch. Carrot Top was just as desperate to get away as Colgate. At some point she felt like she couldn't breathe, but her nose kept clear for her the entire time. She tried holding her tongue back, but her mouth was kept open to a point where she could not hold it back enough. It kept sliding up against the princess's inner thighs in between.
God.
I think you can read that.
Right here?
Yes, oh my god, I can't read that. I don't think I can read that without keeping a straight face.
Want me to do it to make you laugh even harder?
If you want to.
Oh, Celestia, yes, yes, oh yes, Celestia, yes.
Barry Punch moaned out, her eyes closed as her mouth was stuck with an open smile, drool beginning to slide down the edges of her lips. Was that just for randomness?
That's gonna be Super Bomb's ringtone on my thing.
Celestia was sitting on her haunches, holding Barry Punch down on her lap with Barry's legs wrapped around her.
God.
Barry's rump was pushed downwards, her back weight spread to allow the area between her thighs to rub firmly against the area between Celestia's.
Oh my gosh.
Their bodies moved in synchronization, Celestia pushing her hips up against Barry's while Barry's pushed hers downwards. Then switching and repeating over and over. Their bodies weren't just warm, but on fire. The intense sensations from such firm contact throughout their bodies, exciting the most pleasurable experiences. Did Super Bombs just text you again?
Yeah. Every time you hear that little meow, it's gonna be Bombs texting me. I'm still listening, but just.
Barry was actively trying to nip and lick at Celestia's neck while the goddess simply moaned out in delight, laying onto her lower lip with a wide grin. Celestia found her front hoof sliding down Barry's back, gripping tightly onto the mare's rump and aiding with the movements of their bodies, adding even more intensity to the sensations. Barry Punch elevated her moans to soft screams as Celestia began to use her hooves, her body shaking and her limbs jerking around randomly. The Earth Pony would call out Celestia's name over and over, breathing heavily onto her neck while pushing with all her might.
This is screwed up.
She began to lose herself then, the interactions coming to her like the strong ecstasy.
This fanfic is messed up. Sorry.
After another minute, Celestia turned her muzzle downwards as her hair gently guided Barry Punch's head back, allowing the two to connect their lips in a hot, lustful kiss. Her tongue shot into Barry's mouth, pushing it writhing around the inside of her lips, while their lips were held together tightly. They moaned together, pushed together, and eventually they had reached their own climaxes together. In one last thrust, Celestia held Barry Punch's body as close to her as possible, the smaller Mare screaming out as loud as she could, muffled by the kiss that was still being held. They held there for a few moments, both their bodies quivering from the aftermath, their nerves pushed near their limits from such a rush of pleasure.
Wow.
Eventually, Celestia's grip lightened, Barry Punch gently falling back onto the ground behind her, panting loudly as her tongue lay out against her lips. Her eyes were closed as she could feel herself beginning to get sleepy, having expended much of her energy by pleasuring herself and Celestia. Despite her immense fatigue, she held a soft grin on her face as she stared up at Celestia, who was panting almost as much as her and shared the same grin. The two stayed there for a while, their bodies covered in sweat as they let the air around them gradually cool themselves off. Luna! Colgate's moans were swiftly hushed as Luna pressed their lips together, her tongue quickly invading Colgate's mouth. Colgate was on her back again, laying directly underneath Luna as the two kissed. Luna's hair was slid down on both sides, holding Colgate's rear legs over while another piece of hair stroked itself between her haunches.
Jeez.
The movements were quick and firm as the thick, lively mass of hair continued pushing against her with no sign of pause. At the same time, Luna's body was wriggling back and forth as she worked herself against Carrot Top. Carrot Top was on her back legs open and scissored with Luna's back legs. Luna's tail had itself wrapped around one of her front hooves and restrained her while another piece of the tail had pushed itself into her mouth.
Why?
The oral insert pulsed and writhed inside her mouth in the rhythm within the movements of their bodies, effectively working as a gag, as well as Carrot Top struggled to let out an assortment of cries and moans. The sensation surged through them both like a raging fire, their bodies sweating and their senses intensified. Time only pushed Luna to pick up the pace and power of her movements, kissing and stroking Colgate more fiercely as she had her lower body grind against Carrot Top even harder and faster. All of them were moaning, Luna enjoying the sensations, most of all as Colgate and Carrot Top were experiencing their own forced ecstasy. What is wrong with you? What's wrong with you tonight?
The hair, I just don't understand. That's all. Just don't. It's not that I'm not. Just kidding.
You sound like you hate this story.
No, I don't. I just don't like the hair thing. It just weirds me out.
After what seemed to last an hour to Luna's captors, they all had their own form of climactic release, finally coming to a stop after a series of final thrusts and moans. Celestia and Luna were breathing heavily as they... Are you serious, bro?
What? You know I always do that.
As they sat up, looking at their spent subjects, they turned to each other and smiled, knowing what was to come next. They both looked over to Twilight, whose face was red as a beet, whose body was covered in sweat, yet looked like she had just seen a ghost. Oh crap, here we go. Slowly, Luna and Celestia stood up after their subjects passed out from the overload of pleasurable sensations. They both stretched out and shook around their limbs a bit before finally catering before Twilight and stopping before her. Oh crap, here we go.
Yeah, here we go.
You're both going to get me next, aren't you? Twilight gulped, her eyes wide, yet her pupils shrunk down as she watched the princesses approach her. Oh, Twilight, Luna chuckled as she smiled at the lavender unicorn. I had thought of that, but I think something else is in order. Beg your pardon?
Oh, no.
What did you have in mind, sister? Celestia asked, keeping her soft smile as she looked at Luna. Tia, I know Twilight Sparkle has been your student ever since she got her cutie mark, Luna said, never breaking eye contact with Twilight. But how about I give her an assignment of my own? Oh, Celestia perked up in moderate surprise. What sort of assignment did you have in mind? Well, you had her make some friends, so how about this? Luna stepped closer to Twilight, who again gulped at her approach. An assignment? Twilight stuttered. Go ahead, Luna. I want to hear this, Celestia smirked. And don't worry, Twilight. And don't worry, Twilight. Neither of us would have you do anything that would be bad for you. Twilight wanted to believe Celestia's words, but after what has happened the last couple of days, especially tonight, she could only feel the dread about what the princesses were about to say next. She nodded her head slowly, trying to believe in Celestia's words, but had a gut feeling her life was about to change dramatically.
Sorry, my sister just texted me.
What in the hey? Applejack blurted out as the effects of the teleportation wore off. Hey, where did we go? Pinkie Pie spoke up, looking around inquisitively. I don't remember the trees in the windmill. The group of 5 ponies were outside, surrounded by a mass of trees that were only found in the Everfree Forest. The canopy blocked the moonlight, and it was almost pitch black around them. The only noise around were their voices and the light breeze that swept through the trees. Suddenly, a light began to shine. A light that originated from a blue unicorn with a silver mane and wearing a starry hat and cape. Trixie! Rainbow Dash blurted out as she glared at the unicorn only a few feet from the group. What are you doing here? Did you teleport us or something? The great and powerful Trixie has just saved you all from the newest editions of the perverted princess's penthouse. Trixie barked, unhappy with Rainbow Dash's pessimistic tone. Wait, where's Twilight? Fluttershy spoke up as she looked around. Twilight's sparkle was beyond my grasp, Trixie admitted as she looked to the side, avoiding the group's gaze. The Princess of the Night had her locked with magic, so I was unable to grab hold of her before we teleported to safety. What? The group gasped in unison. You better get us back there so we can save Twilight, Applejack growled with a stomp of her hoof. I agree, Rarity added. It is the most unfriendly and overall uncivilized thing to leave a friend behind simply because you couldn't grab her with your magic. We demand you take us back at once. Are you all mad? Trixie spat, her head rearing back. In case you haven't noticed, the great and powerful Trixie is doing you all a favor. If the elements of harmony have fallen into the hands of the princesses while they are like this, then there will never be any way to change them back to normal. Our only hope is to escape to Canterlot and seek additional aid. The group of 5 took a moment to look down at themselves, remembering they had their elements still slung around their necks. They exchanged glances shortly, but ultimately turned again towards Trixie. But wait a minute, Pinkie Pie squeaks. Question. If Twilight's over there, how are we gonna get her element back? We gotta rescue her anyways, don't we? Trixie does not necessarily believe that to be the case, Trixie says. She levitated up a certain gold crown. There is always a way to substitute harmony, as you will. Hey, that's Twilight's. You better not even think about putting that on your skull, Rainbow Dash yelled, her eyes filled with rage as she glared at Trixie. I'm not going to wear it, Trixie replied in her own attitude. I'm simply keeping it safe so we can actually have the elements and not let them fall into the hands of the princesses. Listen, Trixie, Applejack stepped in. I don't care about going to Canterlot and getting help right now. We can do that later. What we gotta do right now is rescue Twilight. Then we can do whatever in Canterlot. Are you sure we should even do that? Fluttershy said in her voice just above a whisper. I mean, the princesses said they were at harmony like that. Is it our place to try to stop them? Let Trixie put it this way, Trixie sighed. If you want to go back and save Twilight now, then fine. Go and get yourselves turned into sex slaves by Celestia and Luna. We can all save that little bookworm just once we return the princesses to normal. Just trust Trixie. She knows what she's doing.
Yes, trust the great Trixie.
The group again exchanged looks, not at all comfortable with leaving Twilight behind. At the same time, they were intimidated by the thought of not just Celestia, but Luna as well getting their hooves on them. Applejack especially shuddered as she remembered her ordeal. After a long pause and a few hushed whispers between each other, the group of 5 finally came to an agreement. Applejack spoke up, turning her head to the side to avoid looking at Trixie. I think we can go ahead to Canterlot then. I don't feel right leaving Twilight like that, but we gotta do what we can to save her, I guess. As much as it pains me to leave our friend, we simply cannot. As much as it pains us to leave our friend, we simply cannot let Celestia and Luna run rampant like that. Rary looked over to her side as she seemed to speak more to them rather than Trixie. Let us get help from Canterlot first. Then we can save Twilight. The princesses may be rather crude in what they might do, but they won't truly harm her. Physically, at least. Oh, thanks. Then do we have a deal? Trixie asked as she raised her eyebrows. Fine, Rainbow Dash said as she hovered in front of the blue unicorn, but whatever you have in mind, you better be right about it, or we're gonna throw you at Celestia and Luna ourselves. Got it? Got it, Trixie smirked, taking Rainbow Dash's words as a hollow threat. Let us begin our journey, then. We have much ground to cover before we get to Canterlot. The door to the library opened up suddenly, nothing stopping it from slamming against the wall. Spike shot inside, quickly running up the stairs and into his room. He could not believe what he had just heard. Yet at the same time, he knew what he had to do. He had a dream about this once. If both Luna and Celestia had decided to go crazy nutso. Even worse, he saw Twilight get captured, so it was even important for him that he would do what he felt he should. He pushed his bed aside and quickly dug his claws into the floor underneath it, pulling it out and reaching into the darkness. After a few moments of searching with his hands, he grabbed onto what he was searching for and pulled out. A dark green and even darker purple cape came out along with a mask. A stylish hat and suit that fit him perfectly, and the outfit looked similar to Ne'er-do-Well's outfit, save for the fact that it was made for a dragon of his size.
Oh boy.
And the end of his cape resembled the wing of a bat. The hat was also more pointy, looking more aerodynamic, while the mask had an area of black that ran around the part of that covered his eyes. He looked at the outfit for a moment, then thought about the situation again. There were others he had to get, 5 others to be exact. They were all part of their own club, the club at which seldom met. But tonight, they would have a meeting, an emergency once. A meeting that may end up deciding the fate of Equestria. He just hoped he would make it in time to save his rarity.
Confused.
End part 8.
Next is the epilogue. I thought part 8 was it. I guess not.
No, I guess not.
Alright, well, this is Tales of Hero. I actually have to call my sister, so...
And this is JTH, and we will see you in the last part, which will be the epilogue. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.